Put your seatbelts on and get ready for the ride. We're the freaking New York Jets, so we're built for this shit.
Hello, welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is Saturday, March 8th. Hopefully everybody's having a good day so far today. This is episode 504 of the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. I thank you, as always, for joining me. We are just a little under 48 hours away from the start of NFL free agency, as we will find out what the New York Jets will do officially starting up here on Monday. For those tuning in on YouTube, make sure to please like and subscribe. Of course, thank you to those of you tuning in on all the different audio podcast platforms. Appreciate all of your support in every single one of these episodes. And today I got a couple Jets news topics to discuss. The New York Jets have a improved draft pick. Geno Smith getting traded from the Seahawks to the Raiders last night revealed that the New York Jets actually pick a lot higher in the third round than we initially thought. So we'll break that down here to open up the podcast. And I also want to get into a report from Rich Cimini on Morgan Moses and his potential return here to the New York Jets when free agency begins on Monday. As always, though, before we begin, we've got to get into our podcast partners, starting with our friends over at BetUS, America's favorite online sportsbook. March is here, and the March Madness tournament is right around the corner. If you want to get in on any of the sports betting action for the tournament, check out BetUS and use my link in the description of this video to get a 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000. As always, that's on any sports betting, not just March Madness. They also have slots and casinos as well. Also, if you want any of the hottest tickets to any of the best in sports and entertainment, plays, concerts, shows, you name it, or any awesome live sporting events, check out SeatGeek. And if it's your first time using SeatGeek, use promo code BUBSONSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase and get yourself some awesome seats. And, of course, our friends over at Huga House. If you want any of their new arrival sweatshirts or hats along with their originals, check them out and use code BUBS at checkout for 15% off any purchase. When you use that code on your first purchase of 15% off, you'll get 30% off your second purchase. So check them out and get yourself some Huga House swag. So here we go. Saturday, March 8th. Figured, you know what, early evening episode, a little bit of a news dump episode here. Tomorrow, I will have my full free agency preview and predictions episode breaking down all positions of need, potential fits for the New York Jets, what I think will happen, of course, re-signings as well. We'll break that all down. Episode will probably be out tomorrow afternoon sometime. So stay tuned for that. But today I wanted to get into two news topics that came out yesterday and then into today involving Morgan Moses that we'll get to a little bit later on. But the first topic was big news in the NFL world yesterday. Geno Smith gets traded from the Seahawks to the Raiders. And with that trade, not only is there a connection between Geno and the Jets, and now Geno going to the Raiders to play for Pete Carroll, former head coach of the Jets. Not only is there that connection, but there's another connection here with the New York Jets that has to do with their third-round draft pick. So here is the report from Mike Garafolo. We'll read the first tweet here. Sources tell the insiders the pick going from the Raiders to the Seahawks is number 92 in the third round. If you search for the draft order online, you'll see the Jets listed as having the 92nd pick. Not correct. It was Vegas's after the Davante Adams trade and is now Seattle's. Mike Garafolo then quote tweeted that and added more detail, which means, by the way, the Jets still hold the number 73 pick, which was the one the online draft orders had attributed to the Raiders. So this entire time, this entire stretch, since that Devontae Adams trade took place in October, and since we have hit the offseason, and this entire stretch of mock drafts and all of these different things, there was not one insider, not one beat reporter, not anybody, not even any of the online draft simulators that picked this up. Forever now, we all thought the Jets had the 92nd overall pick in the 2025 NFL draft in the third round. That's not the case. The Jets actually have the 73rd overall pick, and that 92nd overall pick all along was the Raiders, which of course they have now dealt to Seattle for Geno Smith. So this is actually a positive for the Jets because they get a better draft pick. They're about 19 spots better than they were just yesterday. Now, I am interested to see, I'm assuming the Jets front office knew about this, but not a single, if they did, not anybody else knew about this. Not any of the draft simulators, not any beat reporters, nobody. Everybody just assumed, we all just essentially assigned the Jets as the 92nd overall pick. That's not the case. So you now look at the updated Jets draft order. They obviously hold the 7th overall pick, round 2, pick 42, of course. And now round 3, pick 73. And then, of course, you've got your 4th round pick, 109. You have your 2 5th-round picks, 146, 157. And then your 2 6th-round picks at 188 and then 209. Those don't change, but they got a lot better in terms of draft positioning yesterday. The Darren Muji effect, everybody. Obviously, just joking. He had nothing to do with this, but it just kind of flew over the heads of everybody in the NFL world that the New York Jets actually have a better draft pick than everybody originally thought. And I will just say this. Obviously, that benefits the Jets. Picking 92 to 73 is a pretty large difference. Whether or not that impacts them long term, who knows? We'll see what happens in this draft and who they end up taking. But this does impact the Jets just in other ways, too. You now look at the Raiders, right? They now get a quarterback in Geno Smith, plan on extending him. He's looking for about 40 to 45 million. So that's kind of where the quarterback market's at now. So Geno could get big money. With an older coach in Pete Carroll, you're kind of thinking, okay, Geno's their guy for the next couple years. That maybe take Vegas out of the running for a quarterback, which it felt like for a long time now, if Vegas would to draft a quarterback, it would have probably been Shedeur at 6. Now there's a little bit more of a possibility. We've, of course, talked a lot about the Jets maybe trading up for Cam Ward, which I don't see happening, but there's been some rumors and smoke around that the Jets have checked in with Tennessee about acquiring the number 1 overall pick. But now this doesn't open up the door for a possibility of Shedeur being taken at 7 or being at least available at 7 for the New York Jets. Not saying I want them to make that move. No, I don't. Not saying that move's going to happen. But this move does shake up the quarterback market a little bit. It also shakes up the draft a little bit, with Vegas probably being out of the running now for a quarterback, especially if they're going to extend Geno Smith for that amount of money. So we'll see how that, of course, plays out in April. But a wild development on a Friday night. And it's just another example of the New York Jets. Somehow it always goes back to the Jets. It could be 2 teams out west that make a trade, Seattle and Vegas, and it somehow goes back to the Jets, right? Jets draft pick changing. Geno Smith, former Jet. Pete Carroll, former Jet, now reunited in Vegas. And now maybe the guy that takes over in Seattle is Sam Darnold, also former Jet. So there's so many twists and turns. It's kind of crazy that the quarterback market, free agent-wise, the first big domino to fall is a former Jet. And now the next big domino to fall could also be a former Jet in Geno Smith. Really just wild. So never a dull moment with this team. On a Friday night, 2 trades that happen to 2 teams in the West somehow relates back to the Jets. So definitely something I don't think any of us saw coming, but here we are. So wanted to provide that update. An overall positive update because the Jets, as opposed to what we all thought picking 93 or 92 rather, now will pick 73, which they've been picking all along, just nobody knew about it, which is kind of crazy. For months now, nobody knew about it. All right, so that's the draft pick stuff. I want to move on now to Morgan Moses. This has kind of been a interesting, last month for the Morgan Moses talk. Really, I guess the last couple weeks. It felt like in February we got the Connor Hughes report. He wrote an article, and he talked about just where the Jets are at, some of the free agents and stuff, and he labeled as Morgan Moses as unlikely to return. And I don't think that came as much of a surprise for us Jet fans. Obviously, if at the time was a little disappointing. Now, nothing was official at that moment. That was all just speculation, all just rumors. And you did have to take into account whether or not that was coming from Morgan Moses' side of things, where maybe he want to go to a team that can win now as he's entering the tail end of his career, or was that the Jets side of things where they just wanted to start fresh at that position. Whatever it was, it felt like we were trending in Morgan Moses not coming back. Now, over the last couple of days, and specifically this morning, a report from Rich Cimini came out that Moses coming back seems a lot more likely than it originally did a couple weeks ago. Here was the Rich Cimini report earlier today. With free agency approaching, the Jets remain in talks with right tackle Morgan Moses per source. He's important because there's no obvious replacement on the roster, and the right tackle market is thin. Moses, who had a sprained knee last season, recently passed a Jets physical. That was the first part of all this. He took a physical with the Jets, and the Jets cleared him. He passed it. So he's all good to go. And now you hear this as well, that the Jets have remained in contact with him, and there seems to be some interest from the Jets side, and obviously some sort of interest as well from Moses' side with the physical, getting past all those different things. And I'm totally on board with Morgan Moses coming back. And this, to me, is a really positive development. After what seemed like earlier in the offseason, the likelihood of him coming back based on some of the earlier reports being unlikely, I think this is a really positive shift. Now, again, this does not mean he's coming back. For sure, we will find out in the coming days whenever that move is officially made, whenever he officially signs, whether that's with the Jets or not. We'll find out here in the coming days, only a matter of time. But I'm totally on board with bringing Morgan Moses back. And I think most Jet fans are. I think most Jet fans should be. You look at this Jets offensive line. When is the last time we could say going into a season that there is true five-guy continuity up front? Because last year we saw Olu, John Simpson, Joe Tippmann, AVT, and Morgan Moses all out there on the field down the stretch of last season. And they were all playing very well. The offensive line last season was very solid. You go into this season, that would be your same starting five up front. I think it makes a ton of sense. Right? Why would you want to add? I've said this a lot. The Jets have so many needs on offense and so many needs on defense. They have needs everywhere. Heck, they need a new kicker. I feel like that hasn't been talked about much. They need needs everywhere. Why create a need that doesn't really need to be created by letting Morgan Moses walk when you could just bring him back on a 1-year cheap contract and you know what you're going to get out of him? Especially when you look at the rest of this right tackle market. It's not very good. Morgan Moses is the best guy on this tackle market. You already have him here. Keep him here. He is very solid. And it also takes the pressure off of drafting a tackle, let's say in the first round, where you could then go best player available, wide receiver, whatever, at number 7, as opposed to maybe having to take a Will Campbell or somebody like that. Tackle, of course, from Missouri as well, who has gained a lot of steam. I botch his name all the time, right? But it allows you to take BPA first round if you bring Moses back. And then you can take the pressure off and maybe draft a guy in the middle rounds and have him sit a year behind Moses. Moses is a warrior. He's also a very good guy to have in this locker room. And this team needs a culture change. Moses is a guy that I think a lot of Jet fans would want to have around, and the Jets themselves want to have around as a culture guy, as a leader, and also somebody that continue to help the young guys on this offensive line. Olu at left tackle and whoever they would draft, let's say, at right tackle. I'm totally on board with Moses coming back. I think this would be a very good move. Why create a hole? Why create an extra hole when you already have the answer that's here, if that makes sense? You look at his numbers last year. 63.3 overall grade, 69.2 pass blocking grade, 60.6 run blocking grade. Are those numbers elite? No. But they're solid. They're all above average. And what you're asking him to do is to go out there and be a stopgap for a year and be a leader. Moses checks all those boxes. You look at the rest of the right tackles. Trent Brown, Jedrick Wills. Did you trade for a Jack Conklin? None of those names really move the needle. Plus, the names that are already on the roster. Carter Warren, Max Mitchell. No, Moses is better than all those guys. So I hope he's back. And I think he should be back. Good on and off the field, steady veteran, and somebody that, or really, I guess more so a position that can keep continuity for another year, which we haven't seen for a very long time. We haven't seen the Jets have an offensive line that we see 5 guys last season and in the same 5 guys again this season. That's a positive, especially if you want to try and be that ground and pound, run, rushing offense type of team. Offensive line needs to lead the way. Same 5 guys, that's a positive. So that's the update there on Morgan Moses. I think it's positive, and I hope he's back, and it makes a lot of sense for the Jets. Only time will tell. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below about Morgan Moses, the possibility of him returning. Also, your thoughts on the Jets having a better draft pick. Darren Muji effect, baby. Jets jump up from 92 to 73 without doing anything. So let me know what you think on that. As I mentioned, we'll be back tomorrow. Our full free agency preview. One of my favorite episodes to do every year. I've been doing them the last, 4 or 5 years this podcast has been up for. So love doing these every single year. One of my favorite episodes will break down every position, all the different options. We'll go in depth, break it all down, give you a preview, my predictions, all that stuff. So stay tuned. That'll be up tomorrow. And then the rest of this week, upcoming week, it's going to be a lot of just reactions. Whenever a signing's made, we'll be here talking about it. We'll be here breaking it down. So stay tuned for that. The NFL off seasons officially start to take off. The Jets, no pun intended, going to start to take off here on Monday with these signings. So stay tuned. Talk to you soon. Till next time, Jets, Jets, Jets.